YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. Sorry I'm coming on so late. I had to deal with some stuff and then I went surfing and here I am. So today we're going to be talking about how to hack into the quantum field so that we can create a brand new reality. This is going to take human beings, or the only beings that are able to do this, I have come to find out. So it's very important that we understand what is going on and what we can do to accomplish this. So we're going to reprogram our Earth matrix into the 5D using a quantum field meditation, which we'll talk about. And again, as I said, only humans are the ones who can make this shift, and I'll explain why that is. Okay, so this is thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, and I'm here to give you practical tools to achieve your complete happiness. And ultimately, our goal is even more than just living a normal, happy 3D life. Our goal is to achieve the unbelievable, to shift yourself and create a world that is supposedly impossible, to destroy, through recreation, to destroy all of the negative things in our society. And this can be done. Turns out literally anything can be done if you're able to access the quantum field, and if while you're in the quantum field you are able to set intentions that are not attached to a three-dimensional identity ego construct. This is very important. I'm going to talk about how you can do that as well, because there's no shortage of people who can meditate, no shortage of people who can tap into the quantum field. But the question is, why is it we can only do some things? Right? Like, what are the limitations that you have? You know, the other day I was talking with people and I talked about how I'm learning that people are accessing the quantum field through meditation, and they are healing themselves of things that weren't able to be healed, that they're able to change the genomes in their DNA, that they are able to lengthen the telomeres in their cells, which all of that shouldn't be possible. And then I floated something to the effect of, you know, about living forever. And somebody said, well, we have to die sometime. I didn't respond to that, but my thought was, who says? Who said that? Now, I understand that thought because we have these beliefs about what are the limits to what we can accomplish. But we know of, at least we've heard stories like Babaji from Kriya Yoga, who lives in the Himalayas still to this day, who when he manifests in a three-dimensional way, he looks like he's 20 years old, but he's 5,000 years old, something like that. We have heard of all of the things associated with the Taoist masters who achieve what they call becoming a perfected immortal. And that means the same thing, that your body becomes youthful and you can live in that body for as long as you want. And the idea behind that was that they would continue to meditate and work through their lessons, their karma, if you will, without having to reincarnate and start all over again. So they have different rules, but we see them as different. We don't imagine that that's available to the average person. But when we go back further in our history, before the rise of the saviors, so around 2,000 years ago, a little bit before, all over the world we started having these religions that had saviors, like Buddhism. Buddha is treated like a savior, and that was a little before Christianity. Christianity came around, and then Jesus was the savior. He saved humans. And so what ended up happening is then this idea of enlightenment, that we now have associated enlightenment with morality. Because, Jesus was very moral. He was the Son of God. He was perfect. He didn't sin. Buddha, same kind of thing. He's put up on this pedestal and seen as somebody who's, he's not attached. He's above being human. Truth is that the man Gautama Buddha did physically die, and he was very human, and he ate meat, and he did all kinds of things that, New Age people would go, New Age Buddhists would go, if they knew what he was like. And that's why that there is that famous phrase that says, if you see Buddha on the side of the road, kill him. What that means is that if you're a Buddhist, you're trying to become that. He has become that symbol of perfection. And when you're in the presence of him, you would drop your own self-advancement and you would worship him, which would mean it's a waste of your time. You'd then now stop. You wouldn't improve. So I want you to examine the limitations that you have to what you can accomplish. Looks like I have something in my tooth there. There. Sorry, I was eating something before I came online. Now you don't have to look at and wonder, is that something in his teeth? Yes, it was, and now it's gone. So I'm thinking about this because it has been brought to my attention by not only people that I talk to that are following the same general path that we are, but talking to my higher dimensional friends, and the inescapable teaching is coming around that the earth is going to shift into 2 different earths. And I didn't know how that could be done. That bothered me, so I asked. And I asked higher dimensional beings because I didn't like the idea. I personally didn't like the idea for a bunch of reasons, but one of them is, how can that possibly be? How can the earth split? How can matter do that? Even based on everything I'd experienced, I was still locked into, there were rules about this, this earth is fixed. There still were assumptions I was operating from that apparently aren't true. And the response that I was given by the ETs was that, imagine light. So light from the sun is coming into the atmosphere. And then what would happen if you put a prism? White light is coming in and you put a prism in front of it. And if you had a screen where you were projecting this light, when the light hit the prism, it would break into multiple colors. You would see the colors of the rainbow. And each one of those colors would look like a different stream of light if you're just in the screen. Of course, if you're seeing it come and hit the prism, then you can see it's one stream of light that's then breaking off into multiple vibrations. And that's what we're talking about. Different frequencies. Color of light is a frequency. That's what gives it its color. And then the higher being said, that's what's going to happen. That there's an earth of various different frequencies, and they're higher octaves of the same thing. And so I've been mulling that around for a while. And of course, I have been told from the beginning, when I was first told by light beings that there was going to be this thing called the solar flash, and that there was going to be a new world that would come from it and everything would change. And I kept on asking, when is this solar flash event, the crescendo of the event that's going to switch things? And I kept getting the same answer, which was, it will come when you decide. So I said, okay, I decide, it's coming. It didn't happen. So it must mean something else. And as I've been researching the kinds of meditation that I teach on here, interdimensional meditation, if you're new to it, you can go onto my YouTube channel page. Please learn how to do that. Find somebody's YouTube page and go to the playlist. And on the playlist, you will see guided interdimensional meditation for free. So if you want to understand what that's all about, how you can access and communicate with higher dimensional beings, and how you can not only that, but access the frequencies of different planets and different dimensions, you can go there. Of course, if you want to learn the more advanced stuff, you can go to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and I teach it there as well. So as I'm researching this, and I'm finding, I'm not the only person doing this, of course, and I'm researching Joe Dispenza, my new hero. Please, I'm not big on telling people to go out of my channel, because I want to keep as many people here as possible. But you should go check him out. Go watch videos where he talks about what happens when people access the quantum field in order to heal themselves of cancer, blindness, multiple sclerosis, all kinds of things that you shouldn't be able to heal from. And the bottom line is what he will tell you, and what a lot of people will tell you, even physicists will tell you, that there's this quantum field. And the quantum field has all of the information of everything. It's what we would call the void. And in the void isn't empty. It's filled with power, and it's filled with energy, and it's filled with information. And so if you access that, you can then access the projection. So remember, let's go back to what I said about the prism, light hitting the prism, and then the different frequencies creating different colors, or in the case of the new Earth, different frequencies creating different Earths. They could be, right on top of each other. They could be simultaneously existing, and you wouldn't be, necessarily be aware of the other. That is a result. You can fine tune the frequency from the quantum field. So I just want you to accept that belief for a moment. The idea that you can, like in the Matrix, you go to the room where the architect is, and there's all the different television screens, and there's all the different faces of Neo, and the architect decides, which one is going to be, the timeline that, people use that word. I don't really use the word timeline anymore, but you can imagine it that way, that there's infinite timelines, and you pick the one that you want manifested. So imagine you become the architect. You get to do that. And now, if that's true, if you can do that, what that means is that you can decide anything. You can decide to live 10,000 years. You can decide to change your eye color. You could decide to do anything. You could decide, in this case, what we're being told is that you can decide to create a completely different world. So I want to talk about Earth for a moment. And we'll talk about Earth and use the term the Matrix. So the Earth has an electromagnetic field around it. And the electromagnetic field has a frequency, which is called the Schumann Resonance. It's a frequency. In fact, I have something I've been using for years, which I turn it on, and it creates a magnetic field that I can put it. There's a thing I put under my pillow, and I put another one under my bed. I've been using it for years. And when I first started using it, it healed me of a lot of physical aches and pains. I've gotten used to it. At first, it's a really intense feeling. It's a really powerful feeling, but I've just gotten used to it. And in fact, if you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, look around, you'll find it. There will be a link if you want to get one yourself, you can. And so I've got it tuned to a certain frequency just above the Schumann resonance. And there's reasons for that that I won't get into. But the Schumann resonance determines the frequency of our Earth. This is what I want you to accept. And whether it's scientifically true or not, we'll worry about that later. I just want you to accept the concept that the electromagnetic frequency is what creates the narrative mindset of the human beings. So if that shifts to another frequency, then that means that human beings will shift. It means that the actual Earth itself will shift. So I want you to imagine that resonant frequency called the Schumann resonance, imagine that if you were to go into the quantum field, you could dial that up or down. And you could pick the frequency you wanted and then go back into it. Imagine you can do that with your body. So your body has its own frequency. There's a frequency that's you. You know, this is what mantra is. When you chant a mantra, you're chanting a frequency of a particular deity. So you have a frequency as well. And so when you want to heal yourself, what's happening is you're going into that quantum field where nothing exists and everything exists, and you're literally playing around with the frequency. So cancer is gone, you're 10 years younger, your hair grows back, your eye changes color, you know, whatever. The easiest way to do it is to go to the quantum field and access your optimal self experience, which means joy and happiness. That's really all that you have to do. And if you do that, your frequency will adjust. So now let's talk about how you create a toxic frequency in your body. When you understand that, you can apply it to the world. So I've shared it numerous times, but it's such a powerful concept, we need to keep coming back to it. I'm still learning, so I need to keep coming back to it. And what creates a toxic frequency in your physical body and your mind is, first and foremost, your physical body is not you. You are an eternal being of light. You are, in fact, a deity, because the truth is, no human being can come to Earth and incarnate in a physical body if they are not among the most advanced, most powerful beings in all of the multiverse. So I'd like for you, I invite you to throw away the BS nonsense about being trapped here and being punished, that you've made a mistake or some higher being has decided to punish you or false beings of light are tricking you to be here. I encourage you to let go of that, because that in itself is a frequency that there's no escape from. And as I've said before, if that turns out to be true, that you are a victim of some higher dimensional being who's deceiving you in order to keep you here, then you will never escape. So stop trying to look. You'll never escape. Because a being in a higher dimension can see everything from all vantage points and from all points in time. You would, if that's true, that you're trapped here and they're in the fifth dimension or higher, you will never be able to escape them. They will always be able to stop you and deceive you. They will be able to play with your mind, if that's true. Turns out it's not. The truth is that only the highest, most evolved beings become human. And they choose to become human because in this very dense, lower vibrational frequency what ends up happening is the tiniest imperfections in your soul essence rises to the surface and expresses itself in some self-destructive way that you have to overcome. You become a drug addict, you become depressed, you get wrapped up in superficial things and realize that life isn't about money, whatever it is. And everybody has their own. And it's very easy in this third dimensional experience to blame others because you do feel as though you're being controlled and manipulated, but it's an illusion. Because you can always access the quantum field, and you always have been able to access the quantum field. And actually, you are accessing the quantum field because your resonant frequency is being uploaded all the time, and the quantum field is just reacting and shifting the frequency to match your internal resonance. And so that's why you hear people talk about how no matter how hard they try, they can't make any money. No matter how hard they try, they always end up with abusive relationships. No matter how hard they try, they always end up sick. Well, that's because their internal resonance doesn't change. And we are under the illusion that you can think yourself out of it, and you can't. Somebody left a comment on one of my videos because I said, this universe is a physical universe. And then somebody left a comment saying, again, they didn't, the other 2 hours of the video, they didn't talk about that. They just found that one word that they needed to argue with, that one phrase. And they said the universe is mental, and physics has proven this. And I want to point that out because for people in modern society, especially Western society, but now really much all modern society, people confuse the intellect with the mind. And these are two very different things. The intellect is software in your brain that allows you to interpret three-dimensional reality. People believe that their thoughts have some significance in something, that they can meditate by thinking. Your intellect is here to help you avoid being harmed in the third dimension. The intellect is here to help you avoid getting lost in your emotions. Your intellect is a defensive screen that screens out everything that isn't 3D. That's why you have people who are atheists and agnostics. They're the most intellectual, because that's what intellect is. Intellect can't go beyond the third dimension. So the universe is definitely not mental. The universe, you could say, is mind. But it's not intellectual by any stretch. It's not intellectual. But mind is not in the third dimension. Mind is actually the reflection of the spirit. And you cannot locate the mind. The intellect is in the brain, but you can't locate the mind. You can't find it anywhere. You can't pinpoint it, which means that the mind is not in the third dimension. And the reason why I point that out is because when I hear that, what I hear is somebody, because when I say that this is a physical universe, I'm making it very clear that you must change. And through your actions, you change your frequency and you change your internal dynamic. And people who don't want to take action, who are actually addicted to the feeling of self-protection that they get by thinking about everything. When I tell them you have to take action, they don't want to hear that. So they're going to argue with me. They're going to say, no, the universe is mental. This is the problem with the law of attraction. Same kind of thing. The law of attraction says if you can just focus on a feeling and if you can manufacture a feeling, then somehow that will attract things in the universe that are at the same vibration. Again, it has nothing to do with attracting things that exist. It's completely not how it works. You are creating every single moment. You are accessing the quantum field and your internal resonance is creating your reality. And if you have the experience that you can't change that, the only thing that you can do is change your frequency. And here's the catch-22. You can't change your frequency from the frequency that you are in. In other words, you can't think your way out of it. You can't change your frequency from the third dimension. You must change your frequency from the fifth dimension. And from the fifth dimension, in the quantum field, what you do is you actually delete and erase your current ego identity construct. And that will feel like death to you. I don't mean it'll be uncomfortable. It might feel like it's killing you. It will be so frightening that your unconscious mind will do everything in its power to prevent you from having that experience. And let me share with you. I've shared it once before, but I'm going to share with you again something that happened recently. I was doing interdimensional meditation, and I went to this place where I went to this emptiness, and I felt as though I was dying. Not physically, there was nothing physically wrong, just this feeling emotionally that I was about to just enter death. Because I started imagining leaving this world and going into another one, and the feeling of leaving everything that I knew created this dread in me, like I was about to die. And I kept going with it because I've been doing this long enough to know that, if you feel like you're about to die, it means you're about to accomplish something, you're about to evolve. So I kept going in the meditation, and I even stayed in it after I came back into my body, and I stayed in that place of being filled with bliss and energy, and yet at the same time feeling like I'm about to die. Everything's about to be destroyed. I just sat with it. Of course, I came out of it. I woke up the next day. Everything was fine. And I was talking with some friends, and somebody said something to me. We were talking about all this stuff, and I said something to the effect, about something having to do with my life. And I said, I don't want to do that. I'm too old for that. And somebody said, well, if you're too old for that, then you're too old for a girlfriend. And I sloughed it off, and I said, okay. And I went on saying about something else that because I was my mind was on a track. And afterwards, it really bothered me. It got under my skin. I'm too old. He's saying you're too old for this. And I started feeling that, but I was still in that place of detachment. And I was like, wow, look at all this anger that's coming up. And I realized that I wasn't upset about the idea of being too old. I wasn't upset about the idea of not having a girlfriend. I wasn't upset about any of these things that that my brain was trying to tell me. I was really angry about this. I was really angry about that. And I realized I wasn't. And I was also realizing that each time that the anger came up and the thoughts that were coming up that were trying to attach me to the anger, I wasn't attaching to anything. I was just like in meditation. I was in a meditative state, in my conscious waking state, where I was seeing all of the thoughts and I was feeling all the feelings, and I just wasn't identifying with anything that my brain was trying to tell me I was angry about. And I have to let you know, this is different than denying. I wasn't denying my feelings because I had an impulse, because the anger was so uncomfortable. I had this impulse to go do something like go to the gym or something like that, or play a video game to distract me. And I went, no, I'm not going to do that either. That is going to attach me to this. And I don't want to be attached to this because I already know it's not real. This emotion I'm having isn't real, and these thoughts I already know are not accurate. And what ended up happening is that my nervous system was responding as though I was under threat, which is what anger is. Anger is you feel as though you're under physical threat. And I became aware of what I'd been researching, which is that the toxic environment that we create is when we are presented with what we perceive to be a problem that is threatening our survival, but that there's no solution. For instance, You're out walking in the woods, a grizzly bear comes out of the forest and chases after you. You have to solve that problem or you're going to die. So you either got to shoot the bear, or you got to climb a tree, or you got to play dead, or something. Get out the bear spray. And so you have to take an action which will save you from the threat. And once the threat is over, then you're okay. You spray the bear with bear spray, and it gets upset and it runs away, and you get to your car and you drive away. Problem solved. The anger goes away, the fear goes away, whatever. But when you have a problem that can't be solved, then you end up in what we call stress. And if you go to the doctor will tell you all of these different syndromes and diseases that are affected by stress. Well, you have to reduce your stress. Well, let me give you a new definition for stress. Stress means a physical and emotional survival response to a problem that cannot be solved. Because what ends up happening is that your body creates cortisol, your mind creates all of these things, your nervous system gets bent out of shape, and your heart rate goes up, and then your thinking goes to just a very superficial level. You're now, by the way, extremely easy to be controlled. Thank you, mainstream media. You're very easy to be controlled in this state, which is why everybody is under this, why everybody is manipulated to feel this way. But the problem can't be solved. You're under stress about money. Money doesn't exist, and it's not something you can immediately fix. That's why people want to play the lottery, because if they win the lottery, then in their mind the problem is instantly solved. Of course, it doesn't solve the problem, because people who win the lottery most of the time end up in debt and spending all of their millions and they're back where they were. But stressing about money is a survival instinct problem that can't be solved, because money is only a concept. It's not a real thing. Reputation. People worry about their career. That's an idea too. There's no such thing. I mean, you could say my career is this, my career is that, but it's a concept. It's your job. You go and do a job that you get paid for, and you can call it a career if you want. But what's the difference between a job and a career? A career has this cloud about it. I went to the grocery store a couple of weeks ago. I shared this as well, and my card didn't go through, and I knew it was because the woman didn't understand what was happening, and she, deleted it and refused it and all that. And I was trying to talk to her because I knew that she just didn't know what was going on, and it was frustrating to me. And I said something very kindly. I said, I feel like you're not hearing me, and because I'm telling you where I'm coming from, and you keep giving me this pat answer, and it gives me the feeling that you don't know what you're doing. And her response to me was, I've been, what'd she call it? I've been in retail for 38 years. What she means by that is that she's worked behind a cash register in various places for 38 years, as though it's some kind of a career. I have a career in retail. If somebody comes to me and says, I have a career in retail, my mind goes, oh, they are a buyer and a seller. They go across the world and they buy things, and they are involved in purchasing or selling things in bulk. They've got this career where they make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not somebody who makes $20 an hour behind a cash register. That's not a career, that's a job. Unless you give it a meaning that doesn't exist in reality, but it has this feeling of clout behind it. And now, because you've had this one job of working behind cash registers for 38 years, that doesn't sound good. That doesn't give good reputation. If you're interested, if you care about your reputation. So instead you say, my career is in retail. So your career, you stress about that. It doesn't exist. And when you stress about your career, which is you're worrying about the future, which hasn't happened yet, and you're worried about this concept of the safety that somehow comes with a career, which is also non-existent, then you have this survival problem that can't be solved. And now your emotional body and your nervous system are reflecting back at each other. Your thoughts are bouncing in your head, all of these fearful thoughts, and now you're under stress. And so people talk about reducing stress. Like, there's an acceptable level of having this toxic vibration in your body where you're trying to solve a survival problem that can't be solved, but it's okay if you just sort of tone it down a little bit, but you're in this constant state of stress, as though that's okay. And so then people go to bars and they drink and they get loud as though that relieves their stress, which of course it doesn't. They gamble, they go to Vegas, they go on a vacation, and it reduces their stress. But then they come back to the same problems that can't be solved because they don't exist. So, coming back to my situation, somebody said that, and I became aware that I was having this experience that my ego was responding as though there was a threat to it. Because somebody had said, you're too old for having a girlfriend. And just all parts of me wanted to go crazy with that. Of course, none of that's true. And I started thinking, why did he say that? Of course, now I realize what he was saying is that if you say you're old, you're old. You don't have to, you don't, age has nothing to do with anything, in terms of time. It has to do with your mindset. And when I went, oh yeah, he's right. That's absolutely right. But I couldn't get to that point until I allowed this reverberation between my nervous system, which was trying to fight off a threat, and my emotions, which were responding to a perceived threat, and the thoughts that were trying to attach me to the emotion. Because the intellect, if my intellect was able to convince me that this guy is devaluing you by saying that you're too old and you'll never have love, that could really hurt somebody if that bothered them. That could drive you crazy to have somebody devalue you like that, or to feel devalued like that. And there was a part of me that was wanting to call him up and say, hey, how dare you talk to me like that? You can't talk to me like that. That's really devaluing. There was a part of me that wanted, and I knew that if I did something like that, I would then be attached to it, and I would be grounded in it, and then it would be real. And then I would be trapped in an ego identification loop, and I wouldn't be able to extricate myself from that. So I chose not to do anything, and what ended up happening, it became unbearable. The anger was bouncing around in me, and my nervous system and my emotions were going crazy. And I just kept breathing through it, and I kept on saying to myself, things like, I'm in the fifth dimension. I love myself, and I looked around at where I live. Everything's wonderful. I'm not going to attach to any of this. None of this has anything to do with me. And then when I had the awareness of what was really being said, then something inside of me popped open. And I went back to that place of facing the void. And I felt like I was about to die. And I realized that feeling of that I was about to die was that by not feeding the ego identification construct, by not attaching to that, it disintegrated. And I was in a space of emptiness. And I felt a huge amount of power. And then it dawned on me. That's how Babaji became a 5,000-year-old eternal, timeless person. Because he doesn't have that. He meditated to such a degree that he no longer had an ego identity construct that tied him to a certain frequency. My interactions with higher dimensional beings first started with them telling me things about who I was that absolutely broke my brain. You can read about it in my books. Extraterrestrials are coming to Earth. But without getting into too many specifics, this uh, this higher dimensional being kept saying, "You're a god." And after a couple of weeks of this, he showed up one day, and he was, for the first time in my experience, he was a little bit harsh with me, or it felt that way. And he said, "You have to believe what I'm telling you. It's very important that you believe what I'm telling you about yourself." And so I kept on in my meditations allowing that identity to expand within me. And I had this war, which of course I probably still am dealing with. The war of my third dimensional self that says, I'm so and so, I'm X amount of years old, and I do this, and I feel this way, and here's my past, and here's this. And then there's this other identity that's starting to take hold in me that says, actually, you don't have a history at all. This whole three-dimensional thing is just a virtual reality game you're playing. And the person you think you are is just this identity construct that you've created so that you can stay grounded in the third dimension. And if you let go of that, you'll stop being in the third dimension. You'll be more than that. You can go back to being who you were before you started this whole virtual reality game, which is you are a deity. You're a god. And these beings would do strange things like, they would get on their knees and like worship me like, "No, you're the God we worship." And I'm like, "Stop! What are you doing? This is crazy. You're making me crazy." Until it finally started dawning on me that this three-dimensional projection that I'm in on this three-dimensional screen, the character I'm playing is just that. It's a character. Just like a character in a film. When you watch a film, you know that the person you're looking at is not a real person. It's a character that they're playing, and they're playing it for your entertainment. We take on these characters, and it happens in childhood. It begins in infancy, and we develop it in childhood, and then we live it out. So those of you who believe that higher dimensional beings of light are deceiving you so that you will be deceived into being reincarnated into this prison planet where they suck the life force out of you, that is your story you tell yourself so you will stay in the third dimension. Nobody likes being miserable, but you are miserable. You're miserable, you're in pain, you're frightened, you're angry, you're lonely, you're sad, you're full of rage, you're full of resentment, you're full of fear. All of those things are constructs of your ego identity. That's why when people come onto my channel who complain about being trapped in the matrix, I say, well, here, let me help you. You created the matrix. So since you created the matrix, it means you created every single one of your problems. And the good news is, if you created your problems, it means that you can create all of the solutions. Now, if somebody wasn't attached to being a victim, they would feel absolute freedom in that moment, and they would go, "Oh, thank God. Oh, okay, yeah, oh, cool. Tell me what do I do? Oh, I do this. Oh, that'll free me. And I no longer have to be, oh, thank God." They don't do that. When I say, you chose to be here, you are creating your life, you created every single problem in your life, their response is to get angry with me and to say, "How dare you say that I chose to do this to myself?" And then they try and convince me that actually they didn't choose it. It happened to them because reptilians did it or light beings did it. And then I say what I've already told you. And I say, if that's true, then that means that you are completely screwed and that there is no solution and you will never escape. There is no escape for you. So which one do you want? Do you want to be imprisoned forever? Do you want to take the blue pill? Or do you want to face the responsibility that you've chosen to create all of this because part of you wants to stay in this third dimension and you can create whatever you want, choose one because those are your only two choices. You know, that was the brilliant thing about the Matrix movie. You got two choices. You got the red pill and the blue pill. Pick one. You can't have both. And if you pick the blue pill, you'll forget and you'll go back and you'll be trapped in the Matrix and you won't know any better. Take the red pill, you're going to go through some pretty crazy stuff and, you know, it's going to be challenging, but at least you'll be in the truth. So pick one. The good news is, if you pick the red pill, it's not like the Matrix movie where, you know, you find yourself in some, you know, vat of goo and you're all naked with, you know, all kinds of holes in your head. The truth is that when you escape this Matrix, you actually come into your deity self. You actually wake up and you become this immense infinite deity that can accomplish anything. And then the stuff that I'm doing in my meditations, if I were to tell you about it, maybe you'd like it, maybe you'd believe it, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't have believed it. If I could go back in time and tell myself 2 years ago, here's what I just did in meditation, I would have said, dude, you are seriously delusional. But that's because I was attached to that ego identity of myself. So, this is a rambling way of telling you, when you are able to go into the quantum field and you are able through your meditation to distance yourself from that ego identity. I'm not saying that you have to erase it or anything. You just have to distance yourself from it, so that in the meditation you're not being influenced by that. Your nervous system and your emotional body and your thoughts aren't ricocheting and mirroring and bouncing off of each other. They're quiet. When they're quiet and you distance yourself from that, then you can go there. And then from that place, you realize that all of the things that you don't like about your life, you don't like your physical body, you don't like your health, you don't like your pretty, you don't like your relationships, you don't like any of that, you can then decide what you want. You want to be completely cured of all of your illnesses? You go there and you imagine being healthy. Because the quantum field then takes your imagination, your intention, and it creates a resonance that will then be downloaded into the 3D matrix. And what will happen is, you will then, over time, sometimes very quickly, you will see rapid changes in your physical reality. I'm just using your physical body as one example, but what we're talking about now is creating a completely different earth. And I'm going to tell you the earth that I'm creating in my meditations. In the earth that I'm creating, you know, I'm at the moment I'm living in a beautiful rainforested environment. It's just absolutely unbelievable. The middle of winter and the water's 75 degrees and the air's 70 something degrees and it's sunny and the surfing is perfect, and you know, I mean, I couldn't be happier. And I today, literally, I kid you not, I walked 20 minutes through a rainforest from my car to get to the beach. And then to get back to my car, I walked through a rainforest for 20 minutes to get back to my car. You know, and then I drive, 7 or 8 minutes after grabbing some really good street food and bringing it home to my beautiful 3-bedroom house perched on the side of a cliff surrounded by forest. That was all created in meditation, by the way. I created that in meditation, and when I got here to Australia, literally somebody threw the house at me and said, here, live in this house. That's how this works. I got distracted. I forgot what I was saying. But the world that I'm creating, now remember, the world that I'm creating is like that, except there aren't any roads. Everybody has some kind of self-generated vehicle that can fly through the air, or anti-grav, whatever. It doesn't make any noise, creates no pollution. There's a lot less people. There's no government anywhere on the planet. There's no such thing as money. Everybody works with each other, gives to each other, shares with each other. There's no such thing as the schooling system. Kids are taught from the moment that they're born, they're taught how to meditate. They're taught that they are divine beings of light who are taking residence in this physical body. You are at such a level where you're in a constant state of bliss. There's no impulse within you that makes you afraid, angry, violent, scared, insecure. People love you for who you are, not for what you do. You love yourself for who you are. You can see yourself in everything and everybody. Beings from other dimensions and other galaxies come and go. Beautiful beings of all different kinds of, different dimensions, and they share their knowledge and they share their understanding of spirituality and they share their understanding of technology. That's the world I'm creating. And I wouldn't have even begun thinking that if higher dimensional beings didn't basically beat me over the head with it. Here's the deal, man. There's a new world coming and you have to create it. And here's the important part for you. There was one time, around this same time, I don't know exactly when, might have been around the same time, that this being was saying, it's really important that you believe what we're telling you about yourself. It's very important because you have very important work to do. Around this same time, I went into meditation and that same being showed up. He happens to be in the physical, he happens to be a 7-foot tall mantis being. I think he's red in color, but I don't know that for a fact. And he said, come with me, I want to show you something. And so we took off together through the solar system. And this was after that I had done the meditations, the guided meditations, the live CE5s where we go to the sun and we send solar energy to the earth, which, by the way, the first time I did that, all of the ETs went crazy. I mean, they just were so happy and they were thanking me profusely and they were all whatever. I was like, what did I do? I just meditated. I didn't understand what I had done. But now looking back on it, what had happened is that I was taking responsibility to create the solar flash. I was taking responsibility to, I wasn't making any big deal out of it. I was just going to meditate about the earth shifting. And they went crazy when I did that. They were so happy that I did that. I mean, seriously, for days, they were coming from different planets and solar systems. I just want to thank you for that meditation. They were so happy that I did that. And so this mantis being takes me somewhere. I think he took me to the sun and he said, you remember what you did? And I said, yeah. And by the way, whenever I did it, I would feel huge energy coming from my heart center when I did it. Just crazy electromagnetic energy when I was doing that meditation where I was inside the sun sending solar love to the earth. He says, remember that? You remember what it felt like? And I said, yeah, I enjoyed that. And he said, watch. And then he tried to do it. And nothing's happening. He says, I can't do it. He says, only you can do it. Because you're from Earth. You're a product of Earth. You resonate on the frequency of Earth. He says, I'm not from Earth. I don't resonate. My frequency isn't right. I can't do it. I can help you, I can teach you, I can empower you, I can inspire you, but I can't do it. Only you can do it. So it's really important that you understand that only you can bring the new earth. Only you can bring the solar flash. Only you can do that. And if you don't do it, it won't happen. So what can we do? Let me give you some specifics about how you can pull this off. I'm going to give you some things to think about, which through my trial and error I've found are more powerful than others. So doing CE5, it's very simple. Doing interdimensional meditation is very simple, and I'm going to tell you right now in 30 seconds exactly how to do it. It's incredibly simple. You just simply put yourself in a meditative state. I don't care if it's deep breathing for 3 minutes, or if you do qigong for a half an hour, or you chant a mantra for, I don't care what you do. Just put yourself in a meditative state where you're not consciously bouncing back and forth between your emotions and your nervous system and your thoughts, and you're doing that thing where you're trying to survive an unsolvable problem, and you're in your self-defense mechanisms. Just relax just for a moment, and just allow your body to relax, and let that whole cacophony just quiet down. You don't have to be perfect about it. Just make the attempt to do that. That's all that matters. Then when you do that, you're going to imagine yourself coming out of your body. So you're going to imagine your consciousness coming out of your body, and you look at your body. Again, if you can't see your body, don't worry about it. Just pretend that you can see it. That the intent is the only thing that matters. And imagine that you're floating up above your body, and you float up through the roof, and you can see your town, your city, your state, the continent you live on, and you get higher and higher and higher in the atmosphere. If it's nighttime, you see all the lights. If it's daytime, you see the sun reflecting off of the water. And then you feel yourself, or you imagine yourself, you choose, if you can't feel it or imagine it, you choose, you say, I'm now leaving Earth's atmosphere. You pop out of Earth's atmosphere, and you imagine that you're just sitting there looking at Earth, but you're not in Earth's atmosphere. And then you say, mentally, you send out the mental invitation, I want to commune with beings of light who love me. Something like that. Just throw that out there. The truth is, they already know. They saw you coming the moment that you started to meditate. They got wind of you. But you have to give them permission. If you don't, they'll leave you alone, and they'll let you just travel the solar system, and they won't do or say anything. But at the moment that you invite them to interact with you, they'll show up. Maybe you'll see them, maybe you'll feel something, maybe you won't, but I guarantee you they're there. I guarantee you. And these beings, their only motivation is to help you in this exact way. In fact, if you go out and you leave Earth's atmosphere and you say, I invite any light beings to help me meditate and create the new Earth, they will be so stoked. They will be like, puppy dogs with wagging tails. They will be so happy to help you. Because that's what they want more than anything, is for you to do that. For your benefit. For the benefit of all consciousness. All right? So you imagine yourself floating up out of Earth's atmosphere. You pop out of Earth's atmosphere. You invite somebody to help you meditate and create the new Earth. And then you just do that. And then here are some things to think about. Here are some things that have worked for me. Imagine yourself going to the quantum grid, which just, you can say, I want to go to the center of the universe that is full of light, because that's what it is. It's just this realm that's pure light. So just imagine yourself going there, or say you want to go there, and just imagine yourself in this realm of light. And then begin imagining your perfect world. What kind of world do you want to live in? You want to live in a world that looks like something out of the Lord of the Rings? You want to live in a world with the Crystal Palace? You want to live in a world that's a beautiful desert? You want to live like me in a tropical beach paradise with perfect surfing? You want to live whatever. I don't care what, a swamp. It doesn't matter. A beautiful city of gold. Whatever the hell it is. Imagine that perfect world. Imagine the people, if you want to imagine people. You got a wife, you got a dog, you got a cat, you got, whatever it is. Imagine whatever it is that you want. Imagine yourself doing the things that you want. I also imagine myself leading classes in, the shamanic drumming that I've done and I teach. I imagine myself teaching Qigong. I imagine myself meditating and bringing in higher dimensional energy that just spreads all over the earth. I mean, these are just all my fantasies, and I've come to realize if it makes me happy, it's something that every other conscious being in the universe wants to have happen also, including the quantum field, which, by the way, is conscious. So imagine whatever the hell you want. Here's some other things you can imagine. If it makes you feel good, if it bores you, then don't waste your time. Only focus on the things that make you happy. You can also imagine the elites losing their control over people's minds. Now, when it comes to meditating about the elites, you cannot imagine anything violent. You can't imagine them being sad and crying and being miserable. I know you may want that, but that's going to pull you back into your fear and your resentment and your anger, and that will take you out of the quantum field. Quantum field has nothing but love for everybody. So imagine the elites losing their ability to control people's minds and getting in touch with their emotions, getting in touch with their true self. Imagine them feeling their heart center. Imagine, if you can imagine the elites, mean, psychopathic people, all of a sudden their heart center is opening up and they're starting to feel their heart. They're starting to feel love. Imagine people from within the elites turning into what people call white hats. In other words, imagine people within the realm of the elites deciding to go in the other direction, to tell the truth, to expose the lies. Imagine the veil coming down between the third dimension and the fifth dimension, where everybody on earth can visibly see beings of light, the angels, whatever words they want to use. Imagine the solar flash hitting the earth. Lots of times when I think about it, I imagine the northern lights completely covering the whole earth so that everybody's looking up at the sky and there's just these amazing, neon looking lights. And I imagine that they can feel the electromagnetic energy in their body and they can feel the spirituality of it, and it shifts them. I imagine that. Imagine all armies laying down their weapons. Imagine Russian soldiers and Ukrainian soldiers just looking at their guns like, what am I doing? People just stepping out of their jeeps, stepping out of their tanks and going, what the hell am I doing? Imagine, people on the battle lines that are enemies going over and hugging each other and deciding, why are we fighting? You're a human, I'm a human. Imagine, as I said earlier, higher dimensional beings appearing all over the earth, just en masse. Imagine E.T. craft landing in a friendly way all over the earth. Imagine the spirits of earth, the earth spirits that live in the mountains, that live in the trees, that live in the rocks, that live in the springs. Imagine people being able to see all of the nature spirits and feeling the love from the trees and from the flowers and from everything communicating. Imagine banks deciding to give all of their wealth to everybody and then us getting rid of the banking system altogether. Imagine there's no poverty because there's nobody that has more than anybody else and everybody has everything. Some people, when I talk about this, they go, well, what about people that work really hard for all of their houses and stuff like that? Well, imagine a world where you can have as many houses as you want. Doesn't matter who you are. There's enough room. There's enough resources. There's enough empty space. Imagine being able to have everything, and the whole idea of people having wealth and people not having anything, that idea just goes away. And banks just give away all their money, and then the world comes together and says, let's just stop this whole money thing. Imagine all of the lies being revealed to the whole world. Right now there's a war of narratives going on in mainstream media, especially in the United States, about what is happening in Congress about the secret government UFO program. The mainstream media is telling you that that this is going on and that there are evil, dangerous aliens that have killed humans, when that's a complete lie. The truth is, behind closed doors, it's not just that one guy, that David Grush guy. There's actually hundreds and thousands of high-level people in unacknowledged programs, as well as in the military, who are telling Congress everything. Behind the scenes, it's all getting revealed. Whether it comes out into the light of day will depend on you. So imagine all of those lies being revealed. And imagine the whole system coming down peacefully. Okay, so these are just some things to imagine. But you can also just imagine puppies and kittens and flowers and, you can just imagine whatever the hell makes you happy. Here are some preparations. Now, let me tell you this. Here are some things that will happen if you do interdimensional meditation. What will happen is that, to the extent that you are willing and to the extent that you are able, higher dimensional beings will begin to actively empower you and give you the energy so that you can deconstruct your 3D identity. If you allow them to, they will start telling you who you really are. Because bear in mind, they are also in the fifth dimension and they see your fifth dimensional self. So they're already interacting with your fifth dimensional higher self that's a deity. Remember, you're just a projection on a screen, and you think you're just this tiny little person who was born on this date, and you had these parents, and you went through this. And your higher self is like, no. That's just something I wrote that so that I could send a piece of myself in there to experience that so I could learn from it. But that's not me. That's a character I wrote. So imagine being the character in a play, and you realize one day, I'm just a character in a play, and now I have an opportunity, like in that Disney movie, what the hell is it? I forget what it's called. You connect with your user, which is your higher self. Now you have an opportunity to connect directly to your higher self, and your higher self ego identity can come down and directly interact with the third dimension. There doesn't have to be any separation anymore. So higher dimensional beings, if you allow them to, if you are willing to, if you ask them to, like you can ask them, show me who I really am. I guarantee you, your mind will be blown beyond what you can comprehend. It might be challenging, but they will help you. So that's the first thing that will happen. The second thing that will happen is that when you go to the quantum field and you do this, when you come back in your body, you're going to feel something ain't right. Either emotionally, you're going to feel out of sorts, or you might be filled with a lot of feelings, like I experienced with the anger that I was, wow, that angry feeling, where is that coming from? I know what my brain is telling me I'm supposed to be mad about, but I really am not mad about that, and I'm not going to attach to it. You might have experience like that, or you might have you might become paranoid. You might think that ETs are trying to steal your brain so they can suck the life force out of you. Your brain might come up with all kinds of scary stuff. But you're probably going to feel less and less connected to this whole thing. I mean, the whole human thing of going to work or going to school and getting a degree and having a career and looking good in front of people, you might just start disconnecting from all of that. You might kind of not, what is this all about? What is this world? What is this thing? And you're going to have to make a conscious decision to deconstruct and ultimately delete your human identity construct. The fastest way to do that is to change your actions. This is why I tell you things like stop smoking weed, stop drinking coffee, stop smoking cigarettes, stop isolating, stop binge watching, victim mentality stuff. Just changing your impulsive behavior, whatever your impulses are, change those up. Still keep doing the things that make you happy. I still surf every day if I can. And I'm totally fine with being impulsive and addicted to that because it's good for me. But, other things, stop playing video games all day. You know what I mean? Do something different. Oh, I don't want to spend money. Well, do something different. If money doesn't exist, go ahead and subscribe to the 90-day challenge. Go ahead and buy yourself that surfboard. I'm talking about myself. Go buy yourself that surfboard. Do something contrary to your fears. You see a girl that you think is attractive, and instead of hiding inside yourself, you walk up to her and you say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. Do you want to go grab a cup of coffee?" She might say no, so effing what? Doesn't matter. You did something that was outside of your identity construct. When you keep changing that behavior, especially when you're going towards something that's good for you, that old identity starts to fall apart and a new identity becomes created, which again, the new identity resonates at a higher frequency, which tells the quantum field to restructure your DNA. And all of a sudden, now you're healthy. And all of a sudden, you're prosperous. You've got to change it with your actions. You can't just think about it. It's got to be something that you do in your real life as well. And I encourage you not to do it alone. Find a counselor, find a mentor, find a teacher, find somebody you respect, find a group of people. I highly encourage, listen, I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm going to predict that probably 75% of you qualify for some 12-step program, whether it's Al-Anon or Adult Children of Alcoholics or Love Addicts or Codependence Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Gambling Anonymous, Video Games Anonymous. I'm here to tell you my experience with, when at least the people that respond and leave comments, at least 75% of you qualify for some 12-step program. Go find one. 12 steps is the fastest way to destroy an identity construct and create a new one. It's the fastest way. But don't give me this nonsense that you're going to do it yourself, because it won't work. You have to do it with other people. You have to take direction if you're new to this. You can subscribe to my thing. You can get a session with me. I'm not the only game in town, but you can't do it alone. Okay? All right. So I threw a lot in there. I'm done. I'm happy to take any questions. The way this works is if you want to ask me a question, you write the word question in all caps and then just write the question. Or you can share your feelings. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. Probably since it's probably the middle of the night everywhere in the world, probably there's nobody here, but let's see. So let me take a look and see here. No, I don't see any questions. All right, that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Enjoy that. Again, please make sure that you visit all the links here. I won't go through it again. And again, my books are on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. You see my name there written under Interdimensional Revolution. You can go search for me on Amazon. The two books that I'm recommending are Interdimensional Revolution and Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. If I was to recommend a third one, it would be the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. If you master that last book, the Shamanic Secret Commandment, I'll write it down. If you master what's in that book, which means read that book, it's really a booklet, it's not even a book. If you master what I teach in that, you will accomplish everything that we're talking about, and you can take everything that's in that book and apply it to your quantum field meditation. And if you do, you will see huge results. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. All right, that's it. Thank you guys for showing up. I love you all, and I will look forward to seeing you all very soon. Take care.